Good morning, Judge. How are you today?
Well, I'm just fine.
Thank you for sitting with me today and letting me interview you. I'm doing this for the Federal Magistrate Judges Association. We have a oral history project going on, and you are going to be the star of our interviews.
Well, I don't know about the star, but I was the first.
I know, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But before we do that, you are from Pittsburgh, and here we are in Miami. That's a long trip. How did you get from there to here?
Well, I went to Penn State 4 years, got out of there at 41. They had a draft then, so in 30 and 40, and I was deferred till I graduated from Penn State. Then I graduated from Penn State. Of course, went right into service. I think my first check was $18. Took it and went up to second floor payday. When it got to 300, I went down, took my brand new Chevy, Chrysler, my dad bought me, and then a hell of a weekend. That
was in Pittsburgh?
No, that was then still in Pennsylvania though. And then they sent me down here to Officers Candidate School. On Miami Beach, it was nothing but Air Corps. Well, Air Corps and movie actresses who were there to keep the generals company. You'd see the general ride around with the stars. But Miami Beach was total Air Corps during the war. And then it blacked out because of the submarines sinking, the ships going up. So I was over there, and from there I went to Africa, just east of Orel, and we landed there. I was in command of the company. And we worked our way up to Oran, and then from there we went through to Tunis. No, Algiers is where we were. Some good-looking girls in Algiers, too. A heck of a nice town. And that was the place where right on the corner, you'd be talking to somebody and walking. They'd go into these things that were covered that high, so a man could go in and urinate and not break his conversation. And the hotels, of course, had toilets for men and women together, new ones. And then from Algiers, I went to Tunis and worked up by Nam with the Air Corps. And we managed from there, and then I went to Tunis. Tunis was Sicily. And I got to visit Palermo on Sicily, and all with the Air Corps in front. I'd go in front because I'd be able to, with the two sergeants I had sharp, to get to know what it is and send it back. So we went from Sicily, then Italy, up to Naples, and then was there for quite a while, but then they asked me to go over to the island. Oh, come on, I can't think of it a minute. There's an island to Italy, and a smaller one that belongs to France up there. And I was over there. That sent me out to odd places to set up stages and so on like that. But I always managed, you'd go up in the mountains, and my sergeant came down a whole truckload and eggs and got drunk and broke most of them. And that was over on the island. Then the small island was French, but you could see the planes taking off from there. It's not Corsica, I'm thinking of it. The ones was British, and then the small one. And from there, I landed in France, and then was picked up at the place there. It wasn't a port. I went with the French underground from South France up to Switzerland there. The Switzerland was neutral. if you got into Switzerland, you were safe. Found an awful lot of non-hero pilots there that land on purpose and then spend the rest of the time there. But most of the time in that island was heroes. And I always was where there were problems, and the generals would call me and I'd solve the problems. I went into southern France before there was any invasion and got up to a little town on the border of Switzerland. 2 stories, I could see it when we got it. They would bring in people from Switzerland that landed or got there and then would smuggle them out. And a lot of them landed there purposely, and they had a good time with the girls and everything else, and then went home heroes.
So you were in Europe in 1944.
Probably.
And you were near the Swiss border, and at some point you got the Bronze Star.
Yeah.
What was that for?
I don't know. No one did this, I suppose. I went from South France to the border of Switzerland. There was a little, not hotel, but, on the second floor, we'd smuggle them in from Switzerland that landed there with civilian clothes and put uniforms on and fly them back, or underground, smuggle them back down. Because we didn't have it, but Switzerland was neutral. And a lot of pilots, of course, from England probably, they landed at Switzerland. They didn't want out.
So you were near the Swiss border. You were there in 1944. You got the Bronze Star for what you did.
Well, I got that somewhere. I don't know where. That was after. Somewhere along there.
And you stayed in the Army, and when you left, you had the rank of captain.
Yeah.
Did you come back down to Miami?
I refused to be a major.
Why?
Because when I went up, I found out when you're discharged as a captain, you got a $500 bonus. Majors didn't get it. So I says, no, thank you.
So when you were discharged, did you go back to Pittsburgh, or did you come down to Miami?
Well, I know I went to Pittsburgh for a while. Be a little.
Let's stop.
And
Let's stop. Well, let's wait. Okay, I was starting to ask you about how you wound up down here in Miami. When you were discharged, you went back to Pittsburgh for a while.
yeah,
And then what happened?
I think my wife was more than anybody. She wanted to move, so we moved down there. And little town of West Miami was the first mayor. And I took a salary of $1. I paid for my own gas and used my own car. Built that town hall over there, it's beautiful. Got it paid cash. Left with money in the bank. That was on just bordering Coral Gables in the trail. I was in my 20s probably, was mayor. They elected me, I didn't want it. And they gave me $1 a year, I have it framed somewhere. I wouldn't take any money, used my own car, paid for own gas. West Miami, I was the first mayor. We built that town hall and got a Coral Gables, and I knew them quite well, and they helped us a lot. It was West Miami's on Red Road, which one side's Coral Gables, the other side's West Miami.
You were born in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
right? You were born in 1918?
1918, June 15.
And your family came from Italy?
My dad came from Italy. My mother was of Italian descent, but she was here. And they married and had 7 children.
And you're a Napolitan like I am.
My dad was quite brilliant. That's his name.
What'd your dad do?
A lot of things. He would invest in the banks would get him property that was not any good and they'd fall on, and they knew they'd fix it and they'd both make money. And then he had quite a few of those. And then when beer came in, he said, my brother, let's try this. So he became one of the biggest beer distributors in western Pennsylvania. One time owned a brewery. He was a brilliant man and a wonderful father. He only hit me once.
What did you do?
Well, I was out all night and didn't come in until morning and didn't tell anybody. The only time, and after he slapped me, he was ready to apologize because I never gave him trouble. We had beer trucks and I used to help load them when I was a kid. Just put them on. And then he bought into a beer factory and then sold that at a nice profit. He was a brilliant man. The banks used to go to him with property and say, well, here, this failed to pay, Sam would like you to have it, because they knew he'd make a success out of it. Brilliant man. We ended up in Pittsburgh on the top of a mountain, a beautiful big home on properties. And one, you could see the country, and from the porch you could see the skyscrapers downtown. And had that until my mother died. And they sold it. It was too big for anybody to handle. He was just a beautiful businessman and one hell of a dad.
And then you went to Penn State.
Went to Penn State, and I was deferred for a year, my last year, because it was the enlistment. You had I registered, I guess it would be in 39 or 49. And I was deferred from October till that year, and I graduated.
And then you went into the service, and you came down here for flight training.
Went to Africa.
Or air training.
Through and all through.
Okay. And you said you can move down here because your wife wanted to move down here.
A lot of the reason, none of that, I was down here. The family wanted me up there. They bought a big home they wanted to give me, and she wanted out. And
did you meet your wife in Pittsburgh?
yeah.
Okay.
And we came down here, and that's where I made it. It was the town of West Miami. Somewhere I still have the would check for $1.
How did you wind up becoming the mayor?
My neighbors. They all came to me and says, "You're it." And we had an insurance man and the neighbors. They wanted it. And there was a big rock pit there where they dug rock. They do that. And it was, so I bought that land cheap because they were dumping garbage and everything in that. And then we had that as a playground and whatnot. But the land I bought was right off of the main road. Got it donated, got all the people on the road, the businessmen, to help stuff, build it. Didn't cost anybody $1 to build that. I literally managed to build it. We built it, it's still there, West Miami.
How big is West Miami?
Oh, maybe 1.5 miles square.
Is that the size it was back when you were the mayor?
Yeah.
You were the first mayor.
Yeah.
Was it just incorporated? Or whatever the language is here?
Well, we became a legal town, and I built two beautiful places with fire engines upstairs, meeting place and everything. Got it donated, got it built for nothing. Had the people build and donate 500 block and whatnot.
How old were you when you were the mayor?
In my 20s.
And your neighbors just came to you and said, "You're it"?
One was an insurance man, one was a big one with a phone company. And they were the one that wanted me to do it.
How long were you mayor?
I don't know, maybe 8, 10 years. I was very helpful and very close to Coral Gables. I mean, the people. And like the fire engine they donated to me. And the water lines were running up the road between. They let us tap it. And that was all because of my work with the lines and them knowing me and knowing being honest. A pretty good golfer at the Biltmore Club there.
Oh, you golfed?
Was a couple miles from home.
You were a golfer?
Yeah, I was in athletics, anything. Football.
When did you start golfing at the Biltmore?
Well, it was after the war. It was a veterans hospital. And I also, while I was mayor, got the job to drive the ambulance. And what I would do was report in at 3 o'clock and then go home. And I knew the operator, and the call come in, she'd call and put it at home, and I was there and get the. So I always managed things. And we had an old Army ambulance, and then we got one brand new one, and I was the only one allowed to drive it.
Was that when you were the mayor or before?
Yeah.
Sounds like you had fun as the mayor.
Well, I was always active. I didn't stand still.
And sometime during playing the golf and being the mayor, did you go to law school?
Well, that didn't bother me. We had classes. At that time, they weren't unified. They had first sheds. And then we ended up with some classes in Legion and right there at Coral Gables Town Hall. And we went through this with University of Miami.
Now, what school, what university was that?
Miami. We
Miami.
practically started the law school.
Okay. And when did you graduate from the law school?
I don't know.
A while ago.
Oh, yeah.
And then you went into practice.
Yeah.
What kind of practice did you do?
I did anything that was a trial. I had my partner, John H. Conley, was quite a man. His folks were old timers on Miami Beach, quite well off. And he and I became close friends. He later died smoking cancer. Tremendous young man, a lot of money from his family. And we had our place in the hotel downtown, the building downtown. And he did all the work. I did the trial work. And people would call up and say, Pete, I got a trial 2 days today, can you try it? And I'd say, give it my best. So I was known for trying cases, which I was real good with, because I'm a people person. I wasn't a bookman. And John Conley and I had, we had done a long time till he died of cancer in a boat on the river. And he'd do all the paperwork, but if it was, they'd call and say, Pete, I got a trial 2 days today and I'll be out of town. Would you try it? Well, sure.
What's the first case you tried? Do you remember?
No.
No. What's the first jury case you tried? Do you remember that? No. What's the first thing you remember at doing trial work?
I don't know. I'm a people person, and I would study them. I was real good with a jury. I don't want the book work. That was my partner, John Conley, tremendous.
Do any trials you ever had stand out that you remember?
I don't remember the names, but I know this. I bet you I can lose 2. I didn't lose 2 out of 100.
And your office was downtown?
Oh, yes.
Was that by Flagler Street?
No, it was in the 2 doors down there. I guess it was the Biscayne building then.
Okay. When did you start practicing? Do you remember the year?
No, not exactly.
Okay. But you stayed in practice for a long time.
Oh, yes.
And then there came a time when someone asked you to be a magistrate.
Yes, I was. They called me in Washington. And it was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And they used to have commissioners. And they were not full-time. They'd call up, and then this lawyer would run up to this old bed up there with a crooked floor, and then try the the case and then go back to his business. And I took over as the first one with total magistrate. There wasn't such a thing. We drew the. They says, I don't want to be a judge. And the Supreme Court Justice, I can't remember the one, he says, Pete, this is something new and I know what you do and how you handle those things. And you've got to take it. I wasn't going to be a judge. How can I refuse the Supreme Court Justice, a straight guy?
Warren Berger?
I don't even remember. But I remember the meeting, about 6 of us. So I agreed to take on. And we started it with nothing.
Now, where did you sit when you first became a magistrate?
Here.
What building?
Oh, it was the Biscuit. No, I was at the Biscuit building. And, we did in the courthouse downtown.
The old post office.
Yeah, it was, the 12th floor was the, I remember real because I was an assistant U.S. attorney, or assistant county attorney. And across the hall was the building permits and so on. And at Christmas, they were wheelbarrows of booze and whatnot, but only over there, not us.
Only on the state side,
We
not
were
the
half
federal
of that
side.
floor.
Okay.
In that Dade County build house, it's still there.
What did you do when you were a magistrate? And I'm going to call you magistrate because back when you started, we were magistrates. We didn't become magistrate judges until later on.
They were commissioners,
Okay.
and then became magistrates.
Right.
I wouldn't take a commissioner, it was part-time. And then old Bat was there with the crooked chair and the weaving thing, and she was boss. And if something happened, she called the attorney and they'd run up and try and then go back. And that's no way to do it. So I was sure that we got there that we had something new, and that was the magistrate system.
Did you do all criminal work or civil work or both?
Mostly criminal, but there was civil work in there. And I was with the Chief Justice and I think 2 other judges and a couple other people. And they insisted that I take it because I'd always been successful with people and things like that and had confidence. I didn't want to take it.
Well, how old were you when you became a magistrate?
I don't remember. Probably
Okay.
in my late 20s.
Do you remember what year?
No.
Okay, we can find that out.
Oh yeah, it's there somewhere.
You were the first magistrate judge in southern Florida.
I was in the country.
In the country.
There was 3 or 4 or 5. And the ones that were commissioners that took the job, they wouldn't want it full-time and they quit. And then they carried guns. It was a different thing together. This was an entirely new thing. We had to make up the rules. And that's why they talked me into doing it. I needed it like a hole in the head. And they insisted that with the Supreme Court, I know there was 6 of us.
What'd your partner do when you left?
He kept practicing. We were close friends. He used to bring his friends down to watch me try a case. He had a lot of cause. He was class honest guy, John H. Conley. He died of cancer smoking.
And how long did you stay a magistrate and a magistrate judge?
Well, until recently, I was part-time, and now I don't even go down. When after it was all organized, we didn't have a thing. We had to make up the rules. I remember we had forms. The girls you had mimeograph machines, or whatever the hell they were, and then blueprint all over the floor and make up papers to sign and whatnot. and we got it down to the things that you could do. We got in an order. So when you pled, immediately hand them that order, and you didn't have to spoil the time.
You've seen a lot of changes in the
Oh,
system
yes.
over the last
Big
30 or
change,
40
yeah.
years. What's changed the most?
Ego.
Okay. Tell me about that.
You got some real schmucks there.
Well, let's not talk about specifics. Other than people and egos, what else has changed that you think is a big difference from when you started?
Well, the only thing is how many there are.
There are a lot of magistrate judges in the
Yeah, a
country.
lot of circuit court judges too. And a lot of them have become just appointed politically.
Well, let's talk about some other things besides that. What did you enjoy the most as a magistrate?
Trying the case.
Did you get to try cases often?
That's all I did,
Okay.
just about. If I had to do the book, John Conley, even when I private, he did the paperwork and the form work, and I'd hand it to me. Then other lawyers would call me. A lot of lawyers can't try a case, good lawyers. And they'd call up and ask if I could try their case.
When you became a magistrate and you started doing criminal work, did you have many chances to try cases?
That's all I did.
Okay. On the bench, okay.
Yeah,
And they were criminal cases, I assume.
yeah.
Did anything stand out then, looking back, that you enjoyed the most when you were a magistrate?
How about swearing in citizens? How many citizens did you swear in?
I'm a people person. I enjoy being able to help. And I still do it. Not much anymore.
When I was on the bench, one of the things I enjoyed the most was swearing in new citizens. Did you do that?
I swore in more citizens than anybody in history. Anybody. I did it all for years. Had one where we had, I think, 18,000 in the Orange Bowl, and it was in New York. We had, what's his name, became president later. He was up in Washington, and we had, but the big one was here in Miami. And I have by far the record of swearing in more new citizens than one lawyer put it down than all the other ones put together.
Do you remember how many IRNS told you how many you sworn in?
Not total, but I know I did 12 to 16,000 in the Orange Bowl one time.
That was an enjoyable thing to do, wasn't it?
Very much so.
What else did you enjoy doing the most?
Anything that would help people, I was honest. I'm a people person.
Did you get out often to visit other judges
Oh,
when you were on
yes.
the bench?
Local and around. Quite often they'd send the young lawyers, the young judges to spend some time with me from around the country.
What did you do with the new judges when they came to visit you?
Just what I'd do with you. Stay with me and let him ask any questions. And then if he was eligible, I'd let him start pitching in. And it was more of being with to see what was done. And a lot of that was from around the country.
What was the hardest thing you did when you were on the bench?
Well, putting people in jail probably.
Well, that was the same thing for me. Putting people in prison was
Yeah.
not fun.
Yeah, you didn't feel like, who am I to take it? But I did the best I could. I didn't have any complaints.
Now, when did you stop sitting?
Altogether in the federal court, I was sitting some in the federal court. I was full-time in the federal court. And then part-time, and I didn't work and I just quit. So the last few years, they wanted me to keep the offices and everything open. I just know I won't. That's taking taxpayers' money just to make it be convenient to me. And I turned in, I brought the stuff here instead of putting it in the library there. I have a lot of it in this room here.
And I expect there were times when agents had to come to your home to get
Oh.
warrants.
That door out there was perfect. I could take them at night and let them in that door, and that door was closed, and I had an office right there if you look at it before you go. And yes, I did an awful lot of that.
And I assume they would come in for warrants for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Just because you're in Miami, a lot of things happened here.
Well, it was necessary, or maybe not necessary, but for the sake of the public, I was available. They'd call me when they wouldn't call anybody else. They'd pull the car up right up there, although we got a driveway in the back.
Well, I want to focus on one thing because it interests me. We're going to go a little off topic. But you were here during the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, right?
Yeah?
As a judge, what were you doing then? What kind of work did you have to do, if anything, as part of that?
I had nothing to do with that for me.
No warrants, no nothing?
Well, I would like anybody else. If they came to me and it called for a warrant, I got a warrant. If it didn't, it didn't. But I didn't just sign anything that came to me. Hell no.
What did you enjoy the most all the time you've been on the bench?
Been able to help people. No question about that. I didn't need it. I could had offers and practice in it. In a big firm, I couldn't stand a big firm. And I had to be the trial lawyer. When we were partners, John Conley, in fact, he lived next door and bought that house, built it. And he died incidentally from smoke.
How long have you been in this house?
I don't know.
Long time.
Yeah, 30 years, you know. Or I gave him part of my corner out there to make the corner bigger. I didn't ask for money.
All right. What would you like to... Magistrate judges across the country are going to listen to you. What would you like to talk to people about or tell them?
Be human.
Anything else?
That's enough. Be fair. Listen. Do what's right. That shouldn't be a surprise, but I know it is with a lot of them.
We spoke before about golfing at the Biltmore, and you told me that when you came here after the service, you wound up being in West Miami. You drove an ambulance, and you went over to the Biltmore, and that was a VA hospital at the time.
Yeah, and that was our ambulance.
And at the time you were doing this, you were getting involved in promoting shows or activities. What was that about?
Lions Club. I took all the Lions Club, and I didn't keep them individual. I had them make a corporation out of all of them. Put on, wrote in the Orange Bowl, penny sales. And would have cashiers from the bank, the whole cashiers come to collect the money. They go around selling tickets and giving them gifts. And I find out right away, don't put the same people 2 years in a row. Because there was money missing. And I locked that cage up and says, nobody's going home until that money's here. And then after that, I wouldn't have the same bank come to handle the monies. They had what we called penny sales. Sell tickets and then raffle off these things.
You must have gotten to know a lot of entertainers over the years.
Yeah.
Who'd you know?
I don't, all of them. They took in a variety club, which had to be 50% of your income had to come from show business. And they said promoting the shows in the Orange Bowl, and that was more than 50% of what I did. And they invited me into the variety club, which at that time, one of the things was helping Kids Hospital. But we lost that because they wouldn't let them keep the name Variety Club on it. The children's hospital that's still there. So you get me started on them, got involved in all of them.
Tell me some names. I'm curious.
Well, whoever was there in the Lions Club, I can't remember the name.
Ever run into somebody named Frank Sinatra?
Yes.
When did you see him?
I know I saw him in Las Vegas.
But not down here in Miami.
Yes, I did. He looked me up once.
Why?
Well, he heard an Italian exchange, and it was a popular young guy. He wanted to meet me. I think he had a part-time club downtown. Not sure. I didn't want in on it.
And you got involved in all these activities, you got to know a lot of people, you were the mayor. You must have been a pretty popular guy down here.
Yeah, assistant U.S. attorney, or county attorney. There was only maybe 4 or 5.
Was that before or after you were the mayor?
Probably. I didn't think I held the job, both jobs together.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Was that an elected position to be a county attorney?
No.
Okay.
Well, to be to be an assistant, no. And they asked me to be, and I could try civil trials, not criminal.
Tell Ron in your interview what the county attorney told you when he was going to offer you the job. Remember him telling you that you weren't qualified for the job, and what you told him?
What?
That he told you, the county attorney said, I'd hire you, but you're not qualified for the job, and what you told him?
Yeah.
You remember what you told him? That if you were qualified, you wouldn't want the job?
Do you remember that?
Got rid of him lately. Later we got rid of him.
Okay. When was that? You know what year that was? Do you remember?
Went long after I got out of school. I don't sharp on the dates. Probably the 40s.
You had a pretty fascinating life. You started in Pittsburgh, college at Penn State, down here for military training, off to Europe.
At Penn State.
Penn State, I'm sorry.
I had the control of the club fraternity houses. And I got for all the Cokes and beers and everything they had, florists. On the big weekends I made money.
You had a lot of fun doing different things.
A lot of money. Oh yeah, wherever I went I could make money, honestly. And I'd send when the fraternity would have a party, I'd send a half-barrel beer free. Became the chairman of the political party of the whole.
When did you become the chairman of a political party?
When I graduated within that year.
In Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Penn State.
Okay, and you stayed pretty active down here in politics, obviously.
Always.
Yeah.
I can't. It's part of being honest and being part of it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun burning crooks' buttons and stand up. I'd left it as an attorney, the bench, and got down and there's a public officer in the chair and asked for special permission to get down from the bench. There were several judges. And I questioned him and he ended up in jail. I'm just I'm very loyal, very love this country and people. And it just never entered my mind to be otherwise.
Looking back on what you did in World War II, how was that entire experience shaping you? How did it shape you? You were very young, you were in the service, you're obviously doing some activities in Europe, you have the Bronze Star. How did that shape you after you got
I had
out?
6 battle stars.
Yes? I'm going to ask you about those in a minute.
Rephrase that again.
Okay, let me rephrase it. You did a lot of things when you were very young overseas in the service.
Yes.
Did that change your outlook on life?
Not particularly. I'm a people person and I'm an honest person and I do the best I can. You don't have to say yes or no.
Okay. What'd you get the battle stars for?
Well, the one was when in Naples, they couldn't get them over the mountains. And there was a landing from the water on the other side, a little bit more before Rome and above Naples.
Anzio?
You know, and we went in there and I took the troops out of where they landed in the water. And we went up then and took Rome. And when we went into Rome, there was one red car, nothing else. And I got my sergeant to grab that son of a bitch, and I took it because we needed it. He didn't. If he had a car, he was on the wrong side. And that's when we went up through Rome. I was a problem solver. They needed help on Sardinia over there on Long Island. I went over and I organized that. And the next little island, Corsica, I guess it is, was French.
Corsica.
Corsica. And I went up there and you could see the German planes taking off. And anything that was tough, they gave me and I enjoyed. That's the one I went in, I was smuggled with into France, in Lower France. Man, that was scary. The French, they had these big guns and they'd have me up above the ceiling in this place till the next day. And you didn't know whether they were going to shoot you. And they took me up to border Switzerland and I stayed there in a 4-story hotel. And we took the people that landed in Switzerland, crossed the line, and put clothes in and got them back to, and a lot of them landed there and stayed there. They weren't home heroes, but bums, as far as I'm concerned.
Now I want to bring you back to your time as a magistrate. I understand you were responsible for the retirement system that I have today. Tell me how that happened. How did you get involved with Congress in having that retirement system?
Well, I'm always involved with Congress. I know them and you lay it down. And we had some good people there that I helped get there. Senator Holland was very powerful. And there's 2 or 3 brothers in the state of Florida. And they took me on with them. Oh, I was honored to have people like that work with me. They knew I was honest, and that's when we brought up the set rules. I got it where we took all that's allowed and we put it down on paper, and then when you were appearing in criminal court, not guilty, here. It didn't take 2 minutes. Everything they're entitled to was there on the sheet that we organized from that. It was all that type of stuff.
Well, I want to ask you about the retirement system. Did you help that get through Congress?
Not necessarily, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Right.
I may have helped it, but not to where I can remember that I did. Not like, the Switzerland and the getting up there. I was smuggled from South France to Switzerland.
Okay. All right. We're going to wrap up the interview. We've been talking for a long time
Yeah.
about a lot of different
Well.
things. But what did you enjoy the least? Or what did you dislike when you were on the bench?
Putting people in prison that are, you know, like children and things like that. I mean, to stop them. To enjoy was just being a judge and being fair.
Okay. And you've seen a lot of judges come and go over the years, haven't
Yes,
you?
and I told a lot of them to kiss their butt.
Okay.
I don't want an ego judge. That's the worst thing you know. I want a humble judge.
All right.
Who is he to be God and take these people's lives in their hands? Who the hell am I?
You're a judge. And that's what you did.
I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do a damn job in the first place.
I know
I
that.
like trying cases. I'm
When
a
was the last-
salesman.
When was the last time you tried a case? As a judge?
Oh, I don't remember. It's a long time.
Okay. Do you remember what it was about, the last one you tried? But you enjoyed it, whatever it was.
They were all important. There wasn't such a thing as this is important in this.
Every case is important to the people who are involved in it.
When you appeared for the judge, you were all equal. And you could get yourself in trouble, but you were all equal. I had no choice. This is a friend, or this should be.
All right. I appreciate you taking the time today. You have a very nice something from the Federal Magistrate Judges and Association in a box, and we also have a certificate for you that you can take a look at later. So I appreciate you having spent the time with me today, and thank you for having done it. And to you. All right. Thank you.